We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Pakistan witnesses tight race as vote results trickle in. Early results show PMLN, PPP and PTI candidates fighting a close battle. As the world watches Gaza and Ukraine amidst fears of wider West Asia conflict, Russian president says no interest in wider war.
We have no interest in Poland, Latvia or anywhere else.
Ukraine replaces army chief in a shake-up. At a difficult time during conflict with Russia, 100 Ukrainian soldiers return home from Russian captivity.
Total, 3,135 Ukrainian men and women have been freed from Russian captivity as of today.
Slava Ukraini!
U.S. Senate advances aid package for Ukraine and Israel. Israeli forces intensify Rafah strikes. Washington warns Israeli assault on Rafah without planning would be disaster. On to details now. World continues to raise fears about conflicts like Russia, Ukraine and Israel-Hamas spreading to wider areas. Experts say these conflicts cost the allies of the respective countries a lot and has the potential to spiral out of control to take an international shape. While the West continue to raise concerns, Russian President Vladimir Putin on his part refuted such an argument. In a rare interview on Thursday, Putin said Russia will fight for its interests, but it is not interested in expanding them.
We have no interest in Poland, Latvia or anywhere else. Why would we do that? We simply don't have any interest. It's just threat-mongering.
Meanwhile, in a major shake-up in the almost two-year-old conflict, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky replaced army chief with his ground forces commander on Thursday. The shake-up ushering in a new military leadership follows months of speculation about a rift between Zelensky and Army Chief General Valery Zaluzhnyi, who many Ukrainians see as a national hero. He promoted Ground Forces Chief Colonel General Alexander Syrsky to be the new head of the armed forces, citing his role in overseeing the defense of Kyiv in 2022 and the lightning Kharkiv counteroffensive later that year. In another development, 100 Ukrainian prisoners of war returned home from Russian captivity on Thursday, greeted with Ukrainian flags amid chants of welcome home and glory to Ukraine. Ukrainian defenders expressed mixed emotions as they got back to their homeland. Kirilo Bodanov, head of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's Intelligence Directorate, told reporters at the site of the servicemen's return that a total of 3,135 Ukrainian POWs had now been brought home. Ukraine and Russia have exchanged 100 prisoners of war from each side in the nearly two-year-old war, with the United Arab Emirates acting as an intermediary, both countries said on Thursday.
We have to release everyone from captivity. Every day we work for this. And I'm grateful to everyone in the world for helping us, in particular the United Arab Emirates for supporting such exchanges. Glory to Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini!
Well, with almost a month left for the presidential election in Russia, political turmoil is intensifying, surrounding who will stand in opposition to the four-time President Vladimir Putin. Boris Nadezhdin is the sole candidate standing in opposition with his advocacy for peace. After the Central Election Commission of Russia denied the candidacy, he has now vowed to challenge the decision. DD India correspondent Dasha Chernyshova provides insight from Moscow.
The Russian Central Election Commission shortlisted 4 presidential candidates whose names will be on the official ballot in March. Among them, candidates from State Duma parties, representatives from the Liberal Democratic Party of Russia, the Communist Party and the New People Party. The fourth name will be incumbent President Vladimir Putin, who is running as an independent candidate. On Thursday, the authorities rejected bids from another 4 independent candidates, including Boris Nadezhdin, who called to end Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. The Central Election Commission said Nadezhdin was short 5,000 legitimate signatures of the required 100,000. At the Commission's hearing, Nadezhdin said, quote, tens of millions of people were going to vote for him. Nadezhdin said he would appeal the refusal of his registration to the Supreme Court. The Kremlin maintains the Central Election Commission's actions are in line with the country's electoral rules. The election will be held in March in all Russian regions, as well as the so-called new territories that used to be under Ukrainian control. Dasha Cherneshova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
Well, a $95.34 billion bill that includes aid for Ukraine and Israel advanced in the U.S. Senate on Thursday. This comes after Republicans blocked a larger bipartisan border security and foreign aid bill. The new bill strips out several U.S. border measures from a $118 billion bipartisan package that Senate Republicans voted down on Wednesday. If the Senate goes on to approve the aid, it must still be passed by the House of Representatives, a chamber with a Republican majority that has not been eager to approve such funding. Meanwhile, Israeli forces bombed areas in the southern border city of Rafah on Thursday, intensifying the residents' fears of an imminent ground assault. This comes a day after Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed to fight on as he rejected terms proposed by Hamas for a ceasefire. Israel says it takes steps to avoid civilian casualties and accuses Hamas terrorists of hiding among civilians, including at school shelters and hospitals, leading to more civilian deaths. Hamas has denied this. Rafah is one of the last remaining areas of the Gaza Strip where Israeli troops have not moved into so far. Well, reacting sharply to Israel's Rafah offensive, the White House said it would not support any such plans, which were expressed by Secretary of State Antony Blinken himself. It thus warned that any military operation done with no planning or little thought would be a disaster.
We have yet to see any evidence of serious planning for such an operation, and to conduct such an operation right now with no planning and little thought in an area where there is sheltering of 1 million people would be a disaster. Off a border crossing is where foreign nationals, including American citizens and LPRs, are able to safely depart. So this is not something that we'd support, and the Secretary made that clear.
Meanwhile, UN chief has pledged to act immediately on any new information from Israel related to infiltration of Hamas in the world body. This comes after 9 UN staff in the Gaza Strip were fired last month. Israel last month accused 12 staff with the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency of taking part in the October 7th attack by Hamas terrorists. Of the remaining 3 staff, 1 is dead, while the UN was clarifying the identity of the other 2.
One thing that you can be absolutely sure, any allegation that is presented to us by the government of Israel in relation to any other infiltration of Hamas in the UN, at whatever level, we will act immediately upon it. We received allegations in relation to 12 names, and those allegations were credible. The investigation team was immediately on the ground, and if I have made any mistake, it can be corrected in the future. But we couldn't run the risk not to act immediately, as the accusations were related to criminal activities that are really dangerous.
A 15-month investigation into U.S. President Joe Biden for improperly handling classified documents ended on Thursday after Special Counsel Robert Hur's probe concluded the president cooperated and a jury would be unlikely to find him guilty. Hur's 388-page report includes references to Biden's memory and powers of recollection. Special Counsel Hur's report released did not charge President Joe Biden with a crime, but it painted a picture of a forgettable commander-in-chief who failed to properly protect highly sensitive classified information, a depiction that could hurt Biden politically. The report found that Biden willfully retained classified information, including top-secret documents, and knew he was in possession of some important documents. The report concluded President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified military and national security information. And holding a presser afterwards, Biden asserted that his memory is fine. He denied that he willfully retained any classified documents.
Memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I've become president. Because I'm the most qualified person in this country to be president of the United States and finish the job I started. I did not share classified information. I did not share it. With your ghostwriter? With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not. What I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office.
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court is doubtful about claims that Donald Trump is disqualified from running for president. Colorado, which previously ruled against his candidacy, presented the case. DD India's correspondent Nick Harper reports for more from Washington.
Well, we heard about 2 hours of legal arguments in the Supreme Court building just behind me earlier. And this case is incredibly consequential. It will have a direct bearing on this year's presidential election and will essentially rule whether or not Donald Trump is eligible to run for re-election. Now, the state of Colorado had previously ruled that Donald Trump's name should not appear on ballot papers. They say because of the events of January the 6th, 2021, when Trump supporters overran the Capitol building, that amounted to insurrection, and therefore Donald Trump is ineligible of standing for the presidency once again. Now, Donald Trump's lawyers set out how they think that is not the case. They even at one point argued that January the 6th was a riot rather than an insurrection. No decision from the 9 justices today. It's unclear when their opinion will come out. It could be in the coming weeks, but bear in mind that out of the 9 justices, 6 of them are conservative leaning. 3 of them were even appointed by Donald Trump himself. And what we heard from the tone of their questioning during that 2 hours.
If Colorado's position is upheld, surely there will be disqualification proceedings on the other side, and some of those will succeed. I would expect that a goodly number of states will say whoever the Democratic candidate is, you're off the ballot, and others for the Republican candidate, you're off the ballot, and it'll come down to just a handful of states that are going to decide the presidential election. That's a pretty daunting consequence.
Really made it clear that they appear skeptical of Colorado's arguments and therefore are poised to side with Donald Trump when they issue that opinion. It will be very consequential, and whatever they decide will be divisive. Unclear when we will hear, but they are being urged to come out with that judgment as soon as possible, as it will have a direct bearing on the coming months as different states vote for which Republican candidate they want to challenge Joe Biden for the White House in November. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has added another win to his victories, grabbing almost all of Nevada's 26 delegates in the state's Republican presidential nominating caucuses on Thursday. Nevada Republicans were the only ones caucusing on Thursday. Trump also won the Republican caucuses in the U.S. Virgin Islands. He defeated Nikki Haley, his last remaining rival for the Republican presidential nomination. Nikki Haley lost the non-binding Nevada Republican primary on Tuesday to none of these candidates. Besides Nevada and Virgin Islands, Trump has added Iowa and New Hampshire to his delegate haul. Further, he appears poised to win most or all of South Carolina's 50 delegates in its February 24th primary. And Spain's Coast Guard intercepted a boat carrying 59 migrants off the coast of Gran Canaria, bringing them to shore at the island's Aguigüen port. The number of migrants entering Spain irregularly by sea increased nearly 300% in January, with the majority arriving at the Canary Islands. About 83% of dingy boats to the archipelago departed from Mauritania. The head of the European Commission and Spain's Prime Minister visited Mauritania, promising more funding to curb irregular migration to Europe. And still to come on DD India News Hour. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un reiterates to wipe out enemies if they use force. Iceland raised its alert level to emergency status following a volcanic eruption near the Blue Lagoon geothermal spa. And we'll tell you about a special Guinness World Record made by matchsticks.
Especially in the Narendra Modi era, how has Bharat emerged to the fore? And please tell our audiences what you, as an author, envisaged by Bharat.
To bridge the north-south divide and the east-west polarization. That also required a lot of self-assurance and a lot of skill and a certain, I would say, an Indian Bharatiya ability.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Quran, and moving on. Pakistan's main political parties were tied neck to neck in early results on Friday after vote counts in the general election were hit by unusual delays. The government is blaming the delay on a suspension of mobile phone services across the country on the voting day. However, the services are partially resumed now. The South Asian country is struggling to recover from an economic crisis while it grapples with rising terrorism in a deeply polarized political environment. Early results show Pakistan Muslim League, Nawaz, Pakistan's People's Party and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf candidates fighting a neck-to-neck battle. And DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh joins us for more on this. Well, Amrit, do you now see any clear picture emerging from the trends as early results show tight battle between the candidates? Any update on that?
That's right, Lepakshi. It's a neck-to-neck competition chase between all the three major political parties of Pakistan. That's Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, that's Nawaz Sharif's party, also Imran Khan's party, PTI, though they are contesting independently, and also Asif Ali Zardari or Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's party, the People's Party. All three of them are very close in the race in early results coming in. Results have been declared for about 12 seats. Both parties, have got their figures varying between 4 each to the third party with at number 3, but just a vote behind. Now, these are the confirmed results, of which Shahbaz Sharif has been declared winner, former Prime Minister and the younger brother of Nawaz Sharif from Lahore 14. That's a National Assembly constituency or a parliamentary constituency from Lahore. So, these are what the results are. The trends which the media was beaming, Pakistani media was beaming till late last night, has been stopped. They are not going by any trends as of now. Because 2 of the channels have received notices from PEMRA, that's the Pakistan Electronic Media Regulation Authority, last night or early this morning in the wee hours of the morning. So the TV channels are playing cautious. So that's where the results stand. Lepakshi.
Also, Amrit, as a lot of substantial rigging is being reported, the next big question is that were the elections fully democratic? Can we consider it free and fair, as social media was also totally banned with allegations of being biased?
That's right. Internet was suspended, especially mobile telephony was suspended, and mobile internet was suspended. The Wi-Fi was working at places. There is a lot of delay, as you said. The delay is being attributed by the authorities on suspension of telephony services, which they said was basically to deal with the threat of terrorism and terror attacks, which is true, which have been happening in the run-up to the election. Even on the voting day yesterday, attacks were taking place. While the PTI alleges massive rigging, as time passes by, they are quoting figures saying that their candidates were ahead in the trends, but now they are losing. So clearly, it is a rigged election. So these are the allegations of the PTI. There may be some truth in that, given the fact that a restraint has been put on the media reporting either rigging or the trends. It's difficult to independently verify that in Pakistan, but that is what the social media is abuzz with, that it is a rigged election, and PTI is alleging that. Is it a democratic, fair, free election? No, it's not.
All right, Amrit. Also, amidst all this, how will the results affect relations with India, or what would be the main priority for the new government?
Well, it depends on who comes into power. If Imran Khan comes into power, then we know he has an anti-India stance. Nawaz Sharif is widely believed to be more amenable to be talking to India. But that will depend upon what his position in the parliament is, how strong is he, what his relationship with the military establishment is. Will he want to burn the fingers once again? The military, how far does it want to go? It will also depend upon, because India is also slated for elections. So what the new government, when it comes to power in May, thinks, does it think the time is ripe to begin some sort of engagement or calibrated engagement with Pakistan? And it also depends if there are, what if organizations, terrorist organizations in Pakistan, which are, of course, stooges of their military establishment, but some of them have gotten out of hand, are able to disrupt the peace process by staging terror attacks or major terror attacks. So, all that is in the realm of possibility. But given the fact that the glimmer of hope is that if Nawaz comes and the army generally is willing to the Pakistani army is generally amenable to talking to India at that stage, but India will do its calculations and then take a call on that.
All right, Amrit, thank you so much for that update on the elections. And moving on, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said the country would not hesitate to use all of its military power to wipe out enemies if any of them used force against it, marking the 76th anniversary of the founding of its military. Kim made the comments during a visit to the Defense Ministry on Thursday, rallying soldiers to uphold the ideology of the ruling Workers' Party and defend the country with their lives. Kim repeated his vow to never hold dialogue or negotiations with South Korea, which he said was his country's enemy #1, and said the policy of powerful military readiness was the only way to ensure peace and security for North Korea. North Korea has marked the foundation of its military on February 8th and last year held a large military parade at midnight showcasing its largest intercontinental ballistic missiles. And Brazilian police on Thursday confiscated former President Jair Bolsonaro's passport and accused him of editing a draft decree to overturn election results, pressuring military chiefs to join a coup attempt and plotting to jail a Supreme Court justice. The bombshell allegations are the results of a probe into Bolsonaro and his inner circle for allegedly plotting a military coup after his electoral loss to President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in 2022. Thursday's operation included search warrants against 4 former ministers and the arrest of 4 former aides. Bolsonaro has already been ruled politically ineligible until 2030 for spreading election falsehoods and faces several other criminal probes that could land him in jail. He's denied wrongdoing and calls the investigations politically motivated. And protests by supporters of Colombian President Gustavo Petro in the capital, Bogota, ended in unrest on Thursday. The demonstrations took place outside the prosecutor's office and the Palace of Justice as the Supreme Court justices voted on the election of a new prosecutor. The voting held high expectations from pro-government protesters as they demanded the court to choose a successor for the current Attorney General Francisco Barbosa. President Petro has accused Barbosa of instigating an alleged coup d'etat to remove him from power. After 2 rounds of voting, none of the 3 candidates for the new prosecutor achieved the minimum 16 votes required to be the next Attorney General. And Georgia's parliament on Thursday voted to approve Irakli Kobakzadeh as the country's new prime minister. The approval comes after the ruling Georgian Dream bloc nominated him for the office last week. Kobakzadeh has chaired the ruling party in the South Caucasus countries since 2021. Former Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili had resigned last month to give a successor time to prepare for parliamentary elections due by October this year. Well, thousands of people are fleeing armed clashes in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo following an increase in fighting between government forces and rebels of the M23 group. The rebels captured strategic hills and towns after a fierce battle last week, forcing the locals to flee to the eastern city of Goma. DD India's correspondent Chris Okameringa has more from Kinshasa.
The violence in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo has led to massive displacement in North Kivu province. Aid agencies say nearly 10,000 people have fled their homes since the fighting intensified last month. Women carrying their children and household items have had to walk many miles to flee the clashes between the Congolese army and the M23 rebels. The 2 sides have been firing heavy weapons on each other's positions. A rocket landed near a university in the eastern city of Goma on Wednesday and injured some civilians. The DRC government has condemned the rebels for what it called the indiscriminate bombings it has carried out. The M23 rebels are ethnic Tutsis who accuse the government of failing to honor a peace deal they signed in 2013. Troops from a Southern African trade bloc and the DRC have been deployed in the eastern city of Goma to prevent it from falling into the hands of the rebels. The DRC president, Felix Tshisekedi, has accused Rwanda of supporting the rebels in order to plunder his country's minerals. Rwanda has repeatedly denied the accusation, but a panel of UN experts released a report last year that found evidence of Rwanda's support to the M23 rebels. Chris Ochamringa in Kinshasa for DD India.
And moving on, Brazil's hot, rainy season has seen a surge in dengue fever cases, with over 300,000 reported in the first 5 weeks of 2021, 4 times higher than 2023. The disease has caused 40 confirmed deaths and 265 are under investigation. Authorities want people to cover up and use repellent to avoid mosquito bites during Rio's carnival celebrations. Symptoms include high fever, headache, vomiting, muscle and joint pains, and itching of skin rash. And weather-related updates now. After a landslide in a region in the southern Philippines buried homes and 2 buses, killing at least 11 people and wounding 31. Rescuers found bodies on Thursday. In the province of Davao de Ora on Tuesday night, February 6th, a landslide occurred in the town of Mako. More than 1,166 households had been evacuated from their houses, according to a statement released on Mako's disaster agency's social media account. The number of missing people had increased to 110 from the earlier 40 reported. Davao de Ora has seen intense rains in recent weeks, which have caused landslides and flooding. And a sudden shower of rain flooded the streets of Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. Individuals and cars attempting to cross the muddy waters that are flooding the local streets. The National Meteorological Service declared on its ex-social media account that heavy rains had caused flooding in the Buenos Aires metropolitan area. The rainfall resulted in brief floods that impeded traffic as well as interruptions in the metro, postponed flights and caused some power outages. An Iceland Civil Protection Agency has raised its alert level to emergency status following a volcanic eruption near the Blue Lagoon geothermal spa, causing the spa to close its doors. The eruption, the third in the Reykjanes Peninsula since December, caused lava to flow over a road and hit pipes supplying hot water to over 20,000 people. The agency has asked households and businesses to conserve electricity and restore hot water via an emergency pipeline under construction. The incident has caused thousands of households to lose heating in the middle of winter.
The third time since this year, starting of this year. So, yeah, it's heavy for us because now we don't have any hot water because the lava field is over the pipes. So it's very difficult. We are about altogether with Grindavik people, about 35,000 people in this area that don't have any heating at the moment. So it's very difficult for us. And we don't know anything, what is happening and what will happen. Hopefully it will be on so sooner than later, but we don't.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Las Vegas' $2.3 billion fair is displaying Super Bowl-themed content during the San Francisco 49ers Kansas City Chiefs game. The glowing orb, known as the Exosphere, displays helmets, matchup graphics, and a countdown clock. London's National Centre for Circus Arts hosted workshops led by Circuit du Soleil's cast, offering aspiring student circus performers opportunities to practice trapeze, banquin and contortion skills. Two cast members set Guinness World Records for the most contortion roll push-ups in 30 seconds. Circuit du Soleil's new show, Algeria in a New Light, runs until the 3rd of March. Thousands of revelers in Germany's Cologne celebrated the start of the street carnival season. Despite rain forecasts, the crowds remained unfazed, describing the atmosphere as great and people in a great mood. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian citizens advised to leave Myanmar immediately after India closes border with the neighbor. Indian state refiner Hindustan Petroleum Corporation is working on a plan for net zero by 2040. And we show you how Indian Air Force's fighter jets gear up for the mega muscle flex exercise in Western India's Jodhpur.
This is a special episode focused on a special book, Why Bharat Matters.
Bharat has a certain ring, a certain connotation. And it means, in a way, a certain authenticity, a certain cultural reaffirmation. So it's a kind of like, look, we are coming into our own, we are who we have been in history over millennia.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Pakistan witnesses tight race as vote results trickle in. Early results show PMLN, PPP and PTI candidates fighting a close battle. As the world watches Gaza and Ukraine amidst fears of wider West Asia conflict, Russian president says no interest in wider war. Ukraine replaces army chief in shake-up at difficult time in conflict with Russia. 100 Ukrainian soldiers return home from Russian captivity. And U.S. Senate advances aid package for Ukraine and Israel. Israeli forces intensify Rafah strikes. Washington warns Israeli assault on Rafah without planning would be disaster. And moving on, the budget session of the Indian Parliament will be continued today in the lower house, where discussions will be taken up on the white paper on the state Indian economy before 2014. Many important bills will also be taken up for discussion in the upper house, that is the Rajya Sabha. Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh will introduce the Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Bill 2024, while Minister of State for Home Nityanand Rai will introduce the Jammu and Kashmir Local Bodies Laws Amendment Bill 2024, which provides reservation to other backward classes in panchayats and municipalities in Jammu and Kashmir. Two other bills related to Jammu and Kashmir, the Constitution Jammu and Kashmir Scheduled Caste Order Amendment Bill 2024 and the Constitution Jammu and Kashmir Scheduled Tribe Order Amendment Bill 2024 are also to be passed by the upper house. Lower house of the Indian Parliament has already passed these bills. And India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar will attend the 7th Indian Ocean Conference during his visit to Perth in Australia on Friday. The minister will address the inaugural session of the conference along with Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe, Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong and Singapore's Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan. The 7th edition of Indian Ocean Conference is being held on the 9th and 10th of February. The theme of this year's conference is Towards a Stable and Sustainable Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean Conference is a flagship forum for countries in the Indian Ocean region, organized annually by India's Ministry of External Affairs in association with the Indian Foundation.
ये कॉन्फ्रेंस पर्थ शहर, ऑस्ट्रेलिया के पर्थ शहर में होगा। हम लोग का समझ है कि करीबन 22 देशों से मंत्री डेलीगेशन लेके आ रहे हैं। उसके अलावे श्रीलंका के राष्ट्रपति भी रहेंगे वहाँ पर। उसके अलावे कई एक और ऑस्ट्रेलिया की फॉरेन मिनिस्टर, उसके अलावे और भी लोग हैं जो वहाँ पर रहेंगे। हर जितने मुद्दे हैं जो इंडियन ओशन को लेकर जो मुद्दा है, सारे मुद्दों पर बातचीत होगा।
Meanwhile, in an exclusive interview with DD India, External Affairs Minister of India Dr. S. Jaishankar said that solution to the problems the world is facing today lies in consensus. And India is culturally capable enough to make that consensus. It is the only solution to the problem of North-South divide or the East-West polarization.
To bridge the North-South divide and the East-West polarization. That also required a lot of self-assurance and a lot of skill and a certain, I would say, an Indian Bharatiya ability.
An inner force,
you know, almost I would say a kind of a cultural ability to get everybody around the table and create that kind of sarvasahmati, which actually we saw in the G20, and I think, it's just not me saying it. If you ask people in the world, I think most people were really very impressed, almost amazed by the fact that we were able to pull it off.
Well, you can watch full interview of External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar at 6 p.m. IST on DD India on Friday. And moving on, Indian state refiner Hindustan Petroleum Corp is working on a plan for net zero by 2040. From enhancing energy efficiencies to integrating renewable power sources and embracing green hydrogen technology, the company is poised to revolutionize the energy landscape. Our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya spoke to S. Bharathan, Director Refineries HPCL.
India Energy Week is creating a lot of buzz in Goa, and right now I'm at HPCL's pavilion and I have with me Mr. S. Bharathan, the director of HPCL. Sir, give us a whole idea of how Indianization work you guys are doing, especially when it comes to making India in the country, for the country and for the world.
We have been actively working on all fields of energy, starting from indigenization, Atmanirbhar Bharat, as well as all the new areas. So here you are seeing number of chemicals which are using new chemistry, which improves the performance, which gives a lot of benefits with respect to efficiency and new applications we are doing here. We have a compressed biogas for purification of compressed biogas. All of us know that India has announced a Satat policy based on which 5,000 plants are coming all over India. This is one such technology which can be used for purification of biogas, and it is very cost effective and achieves highest recovery.
Right. Also, we see a lot of biorefinery model, biofuel, ethanol blending. Are you guys doing that also?
We have our own 2G ethanol patented process, There is a pilot running in our Bangalore R&D for more than 2 years, and we are putting up a scale-up plant now. We also have a biogas plant, which is again with the unique technology with our purification, which is running. And this is for sustainable aviation fuel.
Sustainable aviation fuel is everybody's talking about. Have you guys started working on sustainable aviation fuel? Because that's the next big thing.
Yeah, we have a patented process called HP Trijet. So we have our own catalyst, we have our own process. Pilot is running in our R&D, and demonstration plant we are putting up in our Vizag refinery. In next 3 years, it will be up and running. This is an indigenization effort. This gives highest purity hydrogen. For fuel cell you can use, for any industrial applications you can use. This produces fuel cell grade hydrogen. In the world, there are only 2 technology providers today. And we are the third one and first and only in India. We have a plan for achieving scope 1 and scope 2 net zero by 2040. So we have a roadmap and we have already started implementing them.
So that was the director of HPCL is talking about becoming net neutral by 2040, and that's something that the companies are working in tandem with Government of India's vision of getting net neutral by 2070. With camera person Ajit, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Goa.
And India on Thursday suspended the free movement regime along the Myanmar border with immediate effect. The free movement regime had allowed citizens from either nation to cross the border and travel up to 16 kilometers into the other's territory without documents like passports or visa. India's Ministry of External Affairs has advised its citizens in Myanmar's Rakhine state to leave immediately.
As Myanmar's military junta battles to contain pro-democracy protests, the ground situation remains dire. Amid a deteriorating security situation in Myanmar, India has advised its citizens not to travel to Myanmar's Rakhine state.
म्यांमार में वहाँ पर भी स्थिति थोड़ी चिंताजनक है जहाँ तक सुरक्षा का बात है, और हम लोगों ने कल एक एडवाइजरी निकाला था जो हम लोग वहाँ पर हमारे नागरिक हैं उनको हम कह रहे हैं कि आप वहाँ से निकल जाएं, और जो हमारे नागरिक वहाँ जाना चाहते हैं उनको कह रहे हैं, उनसे हमारी ये गुजारिश है कि आप लोग वहाँ ना जाएं क्योंकि वहाँ की स्थिति नाजुक है.
While India's Home Ministry on Thursday recommended the immediate suspension of free movement regime, that's FMR, between India and Myanmar, India's Home Minister Amit Shah wrote on social media platform X that it's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's resolve to secure our borders. The Ministry of Home Affairs has decided that the free movement regime between India and Myanmar be scrapped to ensure the internal security of the country and to maintain the demographic structure of India's northeastern states bordering Myanmar. Since the Ministry of External Affairs is currently in the process of scrapping it, MHA has recommended the immediate suspension of the FMR. In January this year, India's Home Minister Amit Shah had said that the government will secure the India-Myanmar border with barbed fencing.
म्यांमार के साथ हमारी सीमा जो खुली सीमा है, नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार ने निर्णय करा है कि भारत म्यांमार सीमा को हम बाढ़ से सुरक्षित करेंगे और पूरी सीमा पर बांग्लादेश की तर्ज पर बाढ़ लगाने का काम करेंगे.
The constant fighting between Myanmar army and rebel Arakan army across the border has caused many residents to leave their homes for safety. Members of Myanmar's different forces have also taken refuge in Bangladesh. Bangladesh Foreign Minister Hassan Mahmood, who visited India, said that the deteriorating security situation in Myanmar is worrying for India and Bangladesh. Hassan Mahmood said the issue figured in his meeting with India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Armed conflicts across Myanmar have resulted in numerous civilian casualties. UN Children's Fund, that's UNICEF, condemned Monday's deadly airstrike on 2 schools in eastern Myanmar. According to Myanmar's ambassador to the United Nations, Khe Maw Tun, more than 2.6 million people have been internally displaced. The 1st of February 2024 marked 3 years since the Myanmar military overturned a democratically elected government. Any hope for quick return to democracy was dashed on the 31st of January after Myanmar's military rulers extended the state of emergency in the country. Fuzair Ahmed's report for DD India.
And the 72-hour-long validation exercise between Indian and Saudi Arabian armies is currently underway in Mahajan Ranges near Bikaner. DD India correspondent Nandita Dagar reports.
here in the semi-arid environment of the Mahajan Ranges in the Bikaner district of Rajasthan, the first ever joint exercise Indian and Saudi Arabian armies has taken place, and the validation exercise which involved house intervention, cordon and search operations, which involved such aspects such as slithering from choppers, casualty evacuation and firing of weapons, which actually resulted in better interoperability between the Saudi land forces and Indian 20th Battalion of the Brigade of the Guards, which is mechanized infantry. And this is the first exercise named Sada Tanseek between India and Saudi Arabia. This will lead to better camaraderie, bonhomie, and understanding each other's best practices. With camera person Mohammad Rafiq Pathan from the Mahajan Ranges in Bikaner, Rajasthan, this is Nandita Dagar for DD India.
And today marks the Hindu festival of Mauni Amavasya. Millions of devotees gathered at various sacred pilgrimages to take a holy dip in rivers, aiming for spiritual salvation. In the pilgrimage city of Prayag, located in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, numerous devotees congregated to commemorate this event during the auspicious Hindu month of Magh. The day holds religious significance, observed with silence, fasting and rituals to honor ancestors. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The Indian Space Research Organisation on Thursday announced the launch of meteorological satellite INSAT 3Ds from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Sriharikota on the 17th of February. The satellite aims at improving meteorological observations for enhanced weather forecasting and disaster warning. Indian Air Force's fighter jets roar in the skies of Western India's Jodhpur as they gear up for the mega muscle flex exercise Vayu Shakti 2024. All frontline aircraft, including the Rafale fighter jets and Prachand attack choppers, will take part in the exercise Vayu Shakti, scheduled to be held on 17th of February at the Pokhran air-to-ground range. The Indian Border Roads Organisation has started the snow clearance operation in Sonmarg in the North Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The BRO is actively engaged in deploying heavy machinery to clear the snow from the roads. The Srinagar-Ladakh road was closed by the authorities as a precaution following last Saturday's significant snowfall. And still to come on DD India News Hour. US investors tread cautiously on economic data. In the ICC Under-19 World Cup 2024, India to face Australia in the finals on February 11th in Benoni. And we'll show you glimpses of spellbinding winter attractions at the Japan's 65th Asakawa Winter Festival.
Is telepathy real or fiction? Could it soon be a reality? Imagine controlling your world with your mind. Elon Musk's brain chip promises telepathy for real. But is it safe? Is it ethical? I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuraran. On to some business news now as investors in the US markets reacted to earning reports amidst a roughly in-line jobs report and remarks from policymakers on a likely delay in interest rates cut. The benchmark S&P 500 index advanced slightly on Thursday but traded close to the 5,000-point milestone. The S&P 500 gained 2.85 points or 0.06% to end at 4,997.91 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 37.07 points or 0.24% to 15,793.72. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 48.97 points or 0.13% to 38,726.33.
Slight moves in the market today, but overall year to date we've had really strong performance for the S&P 500. It's trending up, crossing all-time highs, and it's about to cross 5,000, the magic number. So we've seen some really strong earnings report come out. And that's broadly led by tech stocks, but we've also seen it in companies like Disney, Uber that were up yesterday. But yesterday we saw ARM report earnings up 50% over the day. So, it's still very much an AI story.
And global cocoa prices hit fresh record highs on Thursday as traders continue to scramble for supplies. Top U.S. confectionery company Hershey's is expecting to see a further slowdown in demand for its products from cash-conscious customers after its sales volume slid 6.6% in the fourth quarter. Cadbury maker Mondelez also fell last quarter, while benchmark London cocoa futures hit a record £4,670 a metric ton during the session at ICE Exchange on Thursday. In New York, benchmark ICE cocoa futures hit a new all-time high of $5,874 a ton, closing up 7.3% at $5,805, having risen about 90% since the start of the last year. Exporters and port counters in number 2 cocoa producer Ghana's output for the current 2023-24 season is expected to reach just 475,000 to 500,000 tons versus 655,000 last year. A third successive supply deficit for the market is expected, causing fear among traders that the shortage will extend into next year. Well, in January, China experienced the sharpest decline in consumer prices in over 14 years, posing a significant hurdle for policymakers seeking to stimulate economic growth. Economists cautioned that deflationary forces may persist throughout the first half of 2024, citing ongoing weak sentiment in the nation. Patrick Falk of DD India brings further insights on this pivotal issue.
Well, official data showed consumer prices in China fell by 0.8% in January from a year earlier, following a 0.3% drop the month before. It was the third straight quarterly decline for the world's second biggest economy, its longest deflationary streak since the Asian financial crisis in the late 1990s. And it was led lower by a drop in food prices, pork prices in particular being the most consumed meat in China. There was also a big drop in the cost of buying a car as price wars broke out between automakers like BYD and Tesla. Now, cheaper prices might look good to consumers at first, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to start spending again. In fact, it might make people hold off buying even longer as they wait for prices to drop even further, depressing economic activity even further. It also raises real interest rates, making it costlier for businesses to service their debt and harder for them to invest. It may also make people default on their loans, undermining confidence in banks. Now, China has struggled to regain economic momentum on the back of COVID-19, as many other major economies around the world has managed to do so. And that's mainly because of its deepening property crisis and local government debt risk. Policymakers have been cutting interest rates in an attempt to spur growth, but so far that hasn't worked. The government is expected to boost fiscal stimulus this year, but plans won't be revealed until it releases its national budget sometime in March. But Beijing does have limited options because of its slumping housing market, meaning a building boom likely won't deliver any results as it has done in the past.
Well, moving on, Australia's 2 largest iron ore producers, in partnership with its biggest steel maker, are collaborating on a pilot project to decarbonize steel making that could be commissioned as early as 2027. Rival miners Rio Tinto and BHP Group and BlueScope said the collaboration would look to develop and potentially invest in the country's first iron-making electric smelting furnace pilot plant. If successful, it could help open a potential pathway to near zero greenhouse gas emission intensity operations for steel makers that rely on Australian iron ore to meet global steel demand, they said. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. A repeat of the WTC final or a repeat of the ODI World Cup final? Call it whatever you want, but it is the Under-19 World Cup final where Indian men will be up against Australian ones in Benoni. Australia clinched a one-wicket thriller as they chased down 180 to win against Pakistan and book a date with India in the final on Sunday at the same venue of Villamoor Park in Benoni. This will lead to a rematch of the final between the senior men of the two teams during the ODI World Cup 2023. And India were announced joint winners of the SAF Women's Under-19 Football Championships alongside host Bangladesh following an unprecedented change in decision by match officials in Dhaka on Thursday. India were declared the winner over Bangladesh with a coin toss after the game was tied 11-11 on penalties. Bangladesh players then protested and refused to leave the field of play for a long time. After more than 1 hour, the match commissioner, who initially took the decision for tossing the coin, changed his decision and India and Bangladesh were declared joint winners. Also, India on Thursday beat Bangladesh in South Asian Football Federation's Under-19 Women's Championship 2024. India won the championship by virtue of a coin toss after a lengthy penalty shootout against host Bangladesh at the Briheshtra Shahid Mustafa Kamal Stadium in Dhaka. All 11 players from each side converted their penalties in the shootout. Then the on-field referees told both captains that the fate of the match would be decided by a coin toss, which went in favour of India. And Japan's 65th Ashikawa Winter Festival boasted a wide array of spellbinding winter attractions as tourists and locals gathered to see giant snow sculptures and enjoyed a 100-meter-long icy slide in the northern city of Ashikawa. The festival will continue throughout the 12th of February. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.